So Donald Trump sat down for an interview with Terry Moran from ABC News, and it'll probably be the last time he ever does so because it did not go well for Trump. He got very agitated because Terry Moran did not throw him the softballs that he so desperately needs. And that's the thing about Trump. He's always been a guy who needed softball questions thrown at him, but more so than ever, he needs them now because he is not the same dude of hell 4 years ago. He sure as hell ain't the same dude that was debating Hillary Clinton. We, on our side of the aisle, had to admit, and I did here on the channel, several times that Joe Biden was not the same guy that he was when he debated Paul Ryan all those years ago. I said it here on the channel, you know, Joe's getting older. Joe's slowing down. He's not the same guy that debated Paul Ryan. I said that many times. But you will never find a conservative or a MAGA who will ever admit that Donald Trump just isn't the same. And these days, he's more rattled than ever. I've never seen him get so rattled so quick. He's always been shaky and jumpy, kind of Don Knotts, like, please don't, rattle me. But in this interview here, it just went completely off the rails. And I usually don't play clips of Trump here on the channel because I'm tired of looking at him and hearing his voice. But I want to show you two moments from that interview where he clearly is just a lost ball in high weeds. He doesn't know how to answer. And then later, we're going to show you how that he's been totally duped. Take a look.
Oh, that's a subject. So you're saying that you don't like some of the rulings, some of the court orders?
I think the rulings will be overturned, yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you about one man and one court order. Kilmer Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him facilitate his return to the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake was here a long time, was not appointed by us, should not have said that, and just so you understand, the person that you're talking about, you're making this person sound, this is a MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, and the wife was petrified to even talk about him, okay? This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from Maryland.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands, sir.
He came into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Folks, that one clip alone should be enough to have Donald Trump removed from office forever, and he should never be allowed near a position of power again. Harry Truman coined the phrase, the buck stops here. What that meant was, I'm the president, I'm in charge, and I can get it done before anyone. So no matter what's going on, when it lands in this office, I'm the guy that can get it done. That's what he meant by that. And there's Donald Trump sitting there going, yeah, but I have lawyers that are looking into that. We have people that are doing that for me. And when he said the buck stops here, when Terry said, but the buck stops here, he says, no. No, I don't have the power to do that. You're the president of the United States. The Supreme Court has ordered you to facilitate the return of Garcia. And because Garcia didn't go to the Capitol on January 6th and beat police officers over the head, Donald Trump don't care about him. Donald Trump don't think he should have due process. Donald Trump thinks he can just completely ignore the courts and ignore the rule of law. But in this next clip, this is really the whole reason why I sat down to make this video, because damn, if you are still hanging on to Donald Trump at this point in the game and you still believe every word he says, I don't know how in the world anyone like that could watch this clip and not be embarrassed for him. He really thinks that the letters M, S, and 13, he really believes that was physically on Garcia's knuckles. He really believes it. And he gets really agitated when he gets called out. Take a look.
They looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute over that.
Wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry. Terry.
He did not have the letter MS13.
It says MS13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshopped, Terry. You can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshop? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that,
Why don't you
sir.
just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something else?
It's contested.
Now, I think Terry Moran did a really good job with this interview, but I really wish right there at that particular point in time he could have just held up the photos in front of his face and said, look, someone out there may interpret these symbols on his fingers as MS13, but the letters MS and the numbers 13 were not on there. That's clearly photoshopped on, and you can see before and after pictures of his hand to tell that. That's one moment in time where I wish he could have held up Exhibit A and Exhibit B and followed up by saying, no, Mr. President, you're being fed fake news. You're being fed fake stories, and you're being fed fake narratives. But notice how Donald Trump got so agitated and was like, well, I picked you because, frankly, I didn't know who you were. He had to throw an insult at him. And then he sits there and says, they're giving you an opportunity of a lifetime, and you're blowing it. And then just, Terry, listen to me. He had MS13 tattooed on his knuckles. And the whole time he's doing that, I'm just picturing the Manson family for some reason in my head, or Jim Jones. I'm picturing Charles Manson, because I heard a story one time, it was very disturbing, that he used to make his members, the family members, put their hand over an open flame, over a candle, and he would make them keep pushing down, and he would make them be like, it doesn't hurt, does it? It doesn't hurt, does it? And just make them stand there and burn the living shit out of their palm. And would you die for me? Would you die for me? Would you lay down your life for me? Huh? Would you? And that's how I felt when I watched that. Or I just flashed back on some of those Jim Jones documentaries where he's just driving his point home. No. You listen to me. This is what we're saying. This is what we're doing. He had MS. Oh, it's just fake. I can't believe people take you serious. No. The world is sitting back. Anyone with a grain of common sense left in their head is sitting back, and they're not sitting there thinking Terry Moran is fake news and that he's being mean and he's being hard to the president. They're going, man, he really believed that MS13 was actually tattooed on his knuckles. He actually believes that. And folks, I would not put it past anyone to tattoo that on Garcia and send him back home like a Better Call Saul kind of moment, just so that Trump would be writing the story. But there are before and after photos of his hand, and that was clearly digitally just on there. Honestly, when I saw that picture, I just thought that, people have said they interpreted those symbols as that, but I've not seen any proof of it, just people's, hearsay. But it was so obviously digitally pressed on that photo that I really wished in that moment he would have just had that to hold up in front of his face, say, this is before, this is after, here it is. You can see, Mr. President, you're the one being fed fake news. I'm just trying to get you to answer the questions. But Donald Trump is not the same guy that he was years ago. He's so easily agitated. He's so easily upset, because I think deep down he knows I've got my cabinet of clowns around me, and they'll go to bat for me, and they'll be there for me. But if I step out of that safe space, if I step out of that safe zone, I'm going to end up having to face the music. And when I face the music, I won't be able to play the song. That's what he's doing. And that's why that's why you're seeing him lock up judges. That's why you're seeing him go after journalists. And I wouldn't be surprised if he went after Terry Moran, because you can't cross him. He has to live in a world where he's protected. He has to live in a world where he's number one. He has to live in a world where he's praised constantly and told he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, he's not. And I do not buy into the angle that half the country voted for him, because half the country didn't vote for him. We voted against him, and there was a whole lot of people stayed home. on election day and didn't vote. So it's not half the country that believes in this bullshit. MAGA, I still do believe, is a smaller minority that has got the microphone and taken over. And that's happened in other countries before. A lot of these leaders that rose to power didn't rise there really because the majority of the people got them there. It was because one group of stupid people and hateful people were louder and rallied together. And that's why I feel like that we have to rally together even harder. And even though we may have differences, we have to put those differences aside and realize what we're up against. Because MAGA truly does believe, and Donald Trump has taught them this, that if they gather enough stupid people in one group, it gives them credibility. It does not. No matter how many people believes that MS-13 was on there, no matter how many people can't see that that was photoshopped, it doesn't make them right. It doesn't make them any more credible than any of us. But they think that the more they speak and the louder they get, and if they talk over somebody, they think if they just sit and scream in someone's face and yell and then put up a clickbait headline, that that makes them right. It doesn't. They're wrong, and they're always going to be wrong. And we are on the right side of history. But we've got a long way to go before we turn this thing around. So everybody stay focused. Stay focused on the issues at hand. Realize that we've got a madman in there, and realize we've got a cabinet of goons in there. And just stay safe out there, and keep putting in the good work, keep inspiring people to get out and vote and let their voices be heard, keep protesting peacefully, and don't back down. Because, yeah, I don't normally show clips, but when I saw that interview and saw how badly he was falling apart, I wanted to take a look at it. Because how many times do we have to sit here in this chair? Joe Biden had one bad debate performance, and that was it. Everyone had to stand up here and go, yep, that wasn't good. But there will be MAGA out there that's going to be more mad at Terry. And you know why they're mad at Terry Moran and not Donald Trump? It's because Terry Moran made their great leader look stupid. And now they feel stupid, and that's why they're lashing out.